Good morning, Job Snatchers. Thank you for joining me for another episode of Job Snatcher series. This is episode 4, where we're going to go over project planning for RFPs and utilizing your resources. I have the amazing LaTanya Terrones joining me. I'm going to let her introduce herself, but I'm super excited. Make sure you have a pen and paper handy because I know I have mine. This is definitely one of my sore spots.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Jessica, for having me. Super excited to be on and joining you today and just kind of sharing just some knowledge with you. So definitely appreciate it. Again, my name is LaTanya Terrones. I am the owner of Renewed Business Solutions, which, I'm super excited for being able to work with the organizations and the companies that I do, bringing forward, operations. And, I have over about 10 years of project management experience at the local level in different level of programming, mostly on the federal and city level. And then also just this little niche thing that I love to do with coaching and operations. I love the operations mastermind, and so definitely honing in on those skills. So again, thank you for having me today, Jessica.
Absolutely. You're somebody we need as somebody who's not organized at all. And I kind of just wing it and hope, hang on by faith. We need somebody with your expertise to help learn how to really strategize with these RFPs for those of us who have really been trying to jump into the game of bidding and doing things like that. We can really benefit from your expertise in learning
Yeah.
how to break down RFPs and really give us clarification on how to strategize. Because for those who do RFPs and we bid and stuff, it is a tedious process. Like I
Yes.
don't have eyebrows because of it, and you can't see it, but I have because it's so
Listen. I feel that way when I have multiple years of being the writer of the RFP. So at the local level, most of my experience in terms of local level support has been in housing, right? But I've had the opportunity of working with a plethora of different, kind of honing in different pieces,
yep.
and so housing touches everything, right? And
Fact.
so with that, so I've definitely been the one that has written the RFPs, and I've been the one that is receiving the proposals, and I'm having to read these proposals. Okay.
Right. And they're
But
long, lengthy, wordy.
yes, and there's a science to all of it. But in one of my most recent opportunities, I've been responsible. I've had the opportunity of actually replying to RFPs. So I've been on
Yep.
the other side of the coin, and I've been able to see, where it's like, they did not make this clear enough in their RFP. They need to do this better. But ultimately able to assist an organization with breaking down and understanding what the RFP was actually saying and what it actually means. And so
Right.
being on the other side of it has actually been very helpful as well. Because then I could see it from the, purview of what a respondent or proposer is looking at in
Absolutely.
those
And
cases. So that was an enlightening process.
I know it was. And I knew I picked the right person for this process because you've seen both sides. And I would love for you to walk us through how to approach
Mhm.
and analyze an RFP to ensure that we have a thorough understanding of the project requirements.
Mm. Oh, absolutely. So I think one of the most important things to just start off with is, first of all, understanding what the need is, right?
Okay.
So you have, when you're looking at an RFP, generally they're going to start off with background information. It's boring, right? Like
Right.
it's not the fun stuff. But if you're actually reading the background information, they're going to tell you exactly what they're looking for, right? We're looking for someone
Right.
that can do this, right? So understanding the organization, or whether it's the state, the feds, a county, whatever, understanding what their pain points are. So
Okay.
your responsibility is saying, I understand what your problem is, and I'm going to tell you how to solve it, right? So
Okay.
you're going in, you go in with the end in mind, right?
Ooh,
So I
that's a good
understand
one.
your problem. Yeah, I understand your problem. I have the solution, right? I would say absolutely start there.
Okay,
So
that's cool.
yeah, so and then understanding like, listen, you're gonna have to pull some information out of the hat. You're gonna have to do your research. You're gonna have to pull out your analytics, your statistics. So they're gonna give you a baseline of what the problem is, right? But you're
Okay.
gonna do your research. You're gonna pull out like the statistical data, the analytical data, and say, like, I understand your problem. I empathize with you. This is how, this is why. I empathize.
Right. This is how I
Seriously,
break
right?
it down.
Like think
No,
about
for real.
yes. When we're talking with one another, right? If you tell me like, you know what, LaTanya, I have this problem. You want me to be able to repeat back to you the problem to show that
Yes.
I understand what you're saying,
Honestly,
right?
yes. Absolutely.
So you definitely want to do that. And then I would just say, like, if you're getting ready to respond to an RFP, and then I also want to share, Jessica, if you don't mind, like the difference between an RFP and an RFQ, because there is
Yes,
a difference.
please break that down. Break that
Okay.
down. Sorry.
So, yes. So as you're looking at a proposal, I would say do a brief run first. Read through it first. Once you read through it, then I would say take your time and really set out a milestone schedule for yourself. Do not wing it. You will be stressed out. Don't wing it. Jessica, I have a
Don't
feeling
yell,
you
don't
winged
yell.
it.
Look, don't yell, don't yell.
Yeah, like you know, don't wing it because it can be very stressful. And here's the thing, as a reviewer, I can tell that you didn't put a lot of effort into it, or
Okay.
which sections you did not put a lot of energy into. I can tell. All right.
Okay.
So I would say don't wing it. Definitely set up project milestones. So and start work your way
Mm,
backwards. Right. So here's the
that's a good
thing, work your way backwards. So start with the due date. Here's the due date, right? So this RFP is due on this day, and set your milestone schedule, work backwards. So,
one.
you know, knowing when it's due and then saying, okay, 3 weeks before it's due, I want to have this done. 2 weeks before that, I want to have this done. Whatever your timelines are, depending upon how long the response time is, right? So different RFPs are going to give a different length of time out. So they may give you 45 days response. You might have
Right.
2 weeks respond. You just don't
I was
know.
about to say, what happens when you find, because we look for RFPs all the time. So let's say I
Mm-hmm.
find an RFP that's due next week. How do I
Mm-hmm.
prioritize that? You have to
Ooh,
all but
yeah.
in a sense, and you have to put a sense of urgency behind it. So let's say for those of us who are last minute, I'll say it like
Oh,
this.
master procrastinator. I got it.
There we
Uh-huh.
go. Master procrastinators. Let's say we find one. It's like, oh, this is me to the T. I really want to
Uh-huh.
apply, but it's due next week. How do I
Mm-hmm.
approach that?
Don't sleep.
Honestly, yeah,
You
for real. You can't sleep. These things take so long.
don't get to sleep.
No, you're absolutely
So,
right.
but no, ultimately, I do think that you still have to keep those pieces in mind.
Okay.
Um, yeah, keep yes, yes. Um, so I definitely think that um in that case where you have a short period of time, your timeline is just shrunk. And so I think just
Right.
making sure that you have all of those pieces. You're going to have to you still want to project plan that thing out. You know, if
Okay.
you only have 7 days, you want to make sure that in those 7 days you are giving the best effort that you can. Right? And still
Right.
what I would tell you, I would say at least 2 days before it's due, one good advice that I can give you is self-score yourself. Do a self-scoring. So,
Okay.
um, you know, most RFPs are going to tell you how they're going to score your proposal, what they're
Yes.
looking for, how they're going to score it, right? So what I would say, at least 2 days before it's due, of course, give yourself more if you need to, but at least 2 days before it's due, what I would say is go back through the scoring criteria and look through each and every section to make sure that you've hit those points, that you've been able to be
Okay.
clear and concise, and you've been accurate. So don't give this big ambiguous thing. You want to be very direct in the program or the project that you're going to be bringing forward
Okay.
to the process, right? Not super ambiguous, not super broad, but planning it out to every single detail as much as you can to know. I would say once you have a plan, at least with your due dates, I would
Mm-hmm.
then kind of do an outline, just some bullet points to kind of keep you on track, and then you can fill it in as you go,
Oh, that's
right?
super
As you,
helpful. I'm over
yeah,
here
go
taking notes
along.
and trying to give the people the notes, but I'm more concerned about my notes. No, that's super helpful
No problem
because
with
from
that.
right from my end, I am a master procrastinator. So when I do start applying for these RFPs, I'm like, oh shoot. And I know all the information, but you don't realize how much you miss, how much of the context you
Mm-hmm.
miss because you do
Yeah.
everything anyway, right? But to
Mm-hmm.
put it on paper, put pen to paper and really identify and use that data that you're so good at that I hate doing data, but I do it anyway,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
putting it on paper to make sure people understand fully what you're capable of, how important it is
Yeah.
to plan behind that. So then that makes me want to ask, like, how do you prioritize these tasks when you do, or like when you're working on multiple RFPs simultaneously?
So here's the thing. This is what I would absolutely, suggest and share is that there are some things that you're going to supply during every RFP.
Okay.
One of the main things is who you are, what you do, right? And always have in your pocket your measurable results, qualitative and quantitative results that you can share, right? Because I don't want to just know what you do. I want to know how effective you are. How effective has this been over time? How have you measured your outcomes, right? So how have you what are your outcomes? What measurables did you use to make the determination that this is going to work, right? Or that it has worked? And tell me why you're the best person for the job.
Right. This is where you
Right?
can brag.
And
You know,
so,
a
and
lot
you
of
do
people
that
have a
through your
shame brag.
results, through your measure.
Absolutely. Having those in
Absolutely.
your back pocket help
Yeah.
tremendously.
Yes. Yes.
Sorry.
Brag about yourself. Have all the information. Nope, you're good. Brag about yourself as much as you can, but it in a way that's very objective with data.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Mashing
So
the
so
two.
it's
And
like this. It's like this, Jessica. You write resumes, right?
yes.
And so resumes is your client's opportunity to brag about what they've done, what results they have done. Think
Right.
about it as your resume when you're submitting your proposals.
It sounds amazing. It sounds great. And I know that is actually the same thing. It measures out to the same
Hmm.
exact thing.
Yeah.
Utilizing your valuable assets and making them relatable and having
Hmm.
people understand, like, okay, this is what this person does. And you don't deviate from it. Because, people ramble. Same thing with resumes. We ramble.
Yep.
So you don't want to do that with RFPs. I know you mentioned giving the difference between RFPs and
Mm.
what was it?
RFQ.
RFQs. Thank you. If you want to drop that for us, that'll be super helpful.
Oh, absolutely. So a lot of local government companies, and I'm sure even at the state and the Fed levels as well, you will see where some will ask for an RFP and some will ask for an RFQ. There is a difference. So
Okay.
generally, the RFQ is a request for qualifications. So in this case, they're not asking you to solve their problem. Like I'm not asking you for a solution to the problem. I'm asking you to prove that you are the best person to solve the problem, right?
Got you.
Show
Okay.
me why you are qualified to be able to submit a proposal, or why
Right.
are you qualified to be on the list. So at the qualification level, I'm not asking for you to solve anything.
Okay.
I'm not asking for you to tell me how to fix my problem. I'm not asking you to be a fixer. Just why should I choose you to be the fixer? should a problem arise. How about that?
Gotcha. Okay. No, that makes sense. That makes a lot
Yeah.
of sense. Oh,
And
okay.
I know we've talked a little bit, you and I, Jessica, about the qualification. Like, oh, that seems like it could just be a waste of time if I'm not able to submit a proposal, right? But here's the
Right.
thing: what happens is you get on the list, right? So
Right.
you get an opportunity, you get on the list. So I've already qualified you. So you get on the list. So when a problem does arise, you're right on it. I don't even have to, you don't have to. Sometimes they will still make you do a proposal for the
Okay.
problem, but guess what? It's less competitive now. So you're not, once you're on the list and you've been determined as qualified per se, you
Yeah.
then, the pool is now shrunk, right?
And it still
So
works to your
now
benefit.
you're only competing, yes, you're only competing with those who are qualified at that point, not the whole pool of people.
Right. Which makes a difference. And we did talk about that because at first I was like, that it makes no sense. But now that I'm in this pool, you can pick from a group of 5 of us as opposed to 500 of us.
Exactly. Exactly.
Okay.
And so there's
That makes
definitely great benefit there. Yeah.
Could you describe a challenge that some of us may face when doing RFP projects and how we can navigate them?
Um, ooh, so some challenges that I've seen, as an example, definitely is, maybe you don't have a project, or maybe you don't have a direct project that you've done in the past that is completely aligned with what
Yep.
I'm asking, right? Which is always a challenge, right? But I think the best way to overcome that is to be able to prove what you have done. It goes back to kind of looking at those measurable results.
Right.
So maybe I don't have a program or a project that is 100% aligned. However, here's why I am still the solver of your problem. I can still be the person to solve your problem because I do have relatable experience. So I see that a lot, with some of the federal programs that I work on, that I work with. You'll see, I receive proposals for, projects, and I'm like, well, have you done this before? Have you done this here before in this location? Right. So
Right.
that is
Right.
always a challenge too, right? So if you're not familiar with the local agencies, let's say, like, for example, you're in, I don't know, let's say Vegas, you're submitting a proposal for Las Vegas, right? But you've never done projects there, so you're not as fluent with the community there, right? So that
Right.
could be a downfall, right? But how to overcome that would be able to show, like, hey, I've worked with maybe other cities that are the same size, that has the same demographics as your community, and this is what I was able to do for them.
It's really like writing a
Makes
resume.
sense? Yes,
Like
literally.
it's really right that it's really like that. Even though you may not have the exact experience, you've done
Mhm.
something similar. You've done something
Mhm.
in the realm or in the arena. That puts a
Yeah.
lot into perspective. So then that makes me wonder, like, when we're bidding on these things, how do we collaborate with different departments or teams within, different spaces to gather necessary information for an RFP? Like, is there a certain
Yeah.
approach we can take?
I would definitely suggest, again, once you understand the problem that you are trying to solve, right? And you're here to prove that you can solve the problem, it's so critical to make sure that you're able to show that you have members on your team that can solve those problems, and not just the members, who they are and maybe where they work, but show their experience. Show what their measurable outcomes have been in their individual areas of expertise, right?
Yep.
So being able to have subject matter expertise in the different areas, and, like, here were their outcomes. This is what they've been able to do in these different areas and these different jurisdictions.
Mm-hmm.
It's so important to prove that. Oh, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. I can hear you.
Okay. Sorry, I blacked out for a second.
No,
Okay.
it's okay.
So making sure that you're able to build a team and prove that your team members and you all collaboratively are still able to deliver results. Does that make
Ooh,
sense?
that makes a lot of sense and it's super helpful. That brings my follow-up question. So when we're doing that in this organizing, which I am not not a fan of, but as you are organizing, what tools or software do you find most helpful in managing RFP timelines and deliverables?
Ooh, what a good question. I mean, you can use something as simple as an Excel spreadsheet. Um,
Okay.
there's yeah, like I generally will use Excel for breaking down my projects. I mean, there's a
Okay.
ton of project management software out there that you could use, but
Of
I don't think you
course.
need that.
Keep it
I
simple for
think
those of us who
using
don't want to do it.
exactly, and even if you want to get like a tad bit technical, you could Excel even has you can actually look up project management templates in Excel if you want it to
Okay.
be like all nice and pretty and you don't have to do the setup. There are things on there. So what I generally do when I am creating any type of project, it doesn't matter whether it's an RFP or any type of project, what I'm
Mhm.
generally going to do is I'm going to outline the project.
Okay.
And then what I start with is I start with the big task, right? So in the case of an RFP, I would say, okay, I need to get some analytical data. I
Yep.
need to provide my outcomes. I need to do my scoring. Let's just say I'm taking those 3 phases. Hopefully, there should be a little bit more, but let's say those 3. I start with the
Okay.
big task. And then once I have the big task outlined, I then break the bigger task down into subtasks, right?
Mhm.
So if I'm looking at the background, okay, identify the problem. Another subtask would be do research on this city, this county, this town, this company, whatever, because you want to be able to show that I know who you are. I've done research. Just think of it like you said, like a resume going into a job interview. This is your
Okay.
interview, right?
Ooh.
Um, and so you've done research on the company, and I'm able to regurgitate with you what your problem is. So, what are the things you need to research? Another subtask, provide analytical data that is aligned with X, Y, and Z, whatever their problem is, right? So
Okay.
you're going to create, like I said, your main all of these things are going to be done on the same day, right? But every task and subtask will have an actual due date that you will follow. And that
Okay.
way it keeps you on track, And so I just found out about, like, I don't know if you use Google. I know you Apple users probably don't use Google as much, but in my Google Calendar, I'm like, they have a new app it's just called Task, and you can just assign yourself task if you wanted to do that as a reminder. But
Idea.
otherwise, and so what I would also keep in mind, one of the things I forgot, always in project planning, always know your budget. Know your
Say it
budget.
again.
So
You cut
the
out a little
key
bit.
thing, oh, I said know your budget.
Okay.
Right? So if there's money that you have to spend for printing, if there's any type of presentations or anything like that, because every RFP is different, the key to any project management overall, right? Not just to this, but overall, is on time and on budget.
Okay.
That's
Okay.
your success as a project manager, on time and on budget.
Okay.
And so if there are any like expenses that related to whatever it is that you're doing, you want to make sure that you outline those for each project you're working on, just to make sure that you know what to expect, right?
Okay.
And here's the thing, as you're tracking your own due dates that you've set for yourself, say you're sick one day and you're not able to meet a deadline. Guess what? You need to make sure you go back and look at your project plan and make adjustments to those due dates. Because one day off does adjust the entire project plan. And then what is the impact? What type of impact? If I'm sick today and I can't get to it, what
You
is
fall
the impact?
behind. You fall
Yes. And
behind.
how does that impact the entire project? How does that impact me being able to get this submitted on time and making sure that I'm able to personally score and work my way backwards into this thing?
Absolutely. That's a big point. That was going to be one of my questions was the budget. Like what
Yeah.
happens if, you recognize that it's going to take more. Are you SOL if you've already submitted your budget piece?
Mm, generally, yes.
Okay.
Now, yes and no. Yeah, generally, yes and no. Okay.
Okay.
So if we're talking about at the local level, that's a good question. So it just depends. Okay. So it
Yeah.
just depends. So let's say you submit to an RFP and you tell them this is going to cost me this amount of money, right?
Right.
Um, you're giving them a proposal, but when you get to the contract negotiations, sometimes the organization may say, no, we need this or we need that.
Yep.
So I'll give you an example. So I recently worked with an organization that responded to an RFP that I put out,
Okay.
and I got their budget and everything. But although my scoring committee liked the proposal, they had questions about like the number of community meetings that they needed to do and things like that. And so each additional meeting has an additional cost. And so we were
Right.
able to, although we chose that vendor as the one to move forward, we negotiated at the contract piece and said, hey, we need to make sure that you have these meetings, and we're only going to be willing, can we get it within this budget? Can
Okay.
we get our entire project within this budget? So they were able to, although they were the chosen proposer, we were able to negotiate the contract a little bit where it was favorable to both of us, and then it allowed them to push through the process a little bit quicker.
Got you. So sometimes it's
So
fair
I
to
would
just
say hopefully,
and ask.
wait,
I said
yes,
sometimes it's fair. Yeah, sometimes it's fair to just shoot and ask because you
yes,
don't
yes,
know.
yes.
The worst you can
Always
tell me
ask.
is no. You said always ask. We have a little bit of a delayed response, which is all good. We're getting so many good gems. I hope you guys are writing these
Yeah.
down. I'm trying to put as many pieces in there as I can. Sorry, you were going in and out, so I was trying to let people know, like, hopefully they're getting all the gems they need because you're really dropping a lot for us, and I'm trying to put them in the chat as I can, but I can only do so much. I can only do so
Yes,
much.
yes. And sometimes the stream is kind of cutting out too. So I'm trying to like, hopefully
Yeah,
I'm sticking
that's
with
all it
you.
is. It's all good. And if we need a moment, it's all good. As long as nobody misses these gems. I'm like, and I talk to you all
Yes,
the
yes,
time.
yes,
I'm like,
yes.
wait a minute, let me go ahead and do this.
Oh
And then
yeah,
that's another
absolutely. And so, no, go
go
ahead.
ahead. Oh, I was gonna say, like, working with somebody like me who is scatterbrained, um, who doesn't do well. I do well under pressure, but then I fold, of course. With RFPs, you mentioned, having to be structured, organized, and planned. How do you help someone like me do that? What would be your process? Because I know people are going to be reaching out to you after this.
Ha. Um, Here, let's see. What would be my process? I mean, really, you have to be very disciplined. You want to be disciplined, or what you do. I'll give you. I'm gonna throw a plug to myself. Is
There you go.
that you find someone that is good at those things that can help come alongside you and align with you, right? That can come alongside with you and help you kind of pull those pieces together. And sometimes just having an accountability partner that can check in with you, having a business coach, that can walk alongside you and say, hey, don't forget these, or, just having that accountability to make sure that you're reaching the goals that you've set for yourself. I think that
Right.
is definitely, I think that's key, right? Until Jessica, listen. I believe in the cause. I believe in the cause of JMW and rich aunties, and I
Thank you.
believe that really soon, we're gonna have a grant writer. Okay,
Yes.
and so I mean that is always, of course, that's always that's always something you could do, is hire a grant writer or hire someone that's good at those things, right? But when you are small and mighty and you're just trying to push your way through, I would definitely say it is beneficial if you are struggling with staying accountable and things like that. I think it is definitely beneficial to make sure that you have someone that is completely aligned with you, that can walk along the process with you and just kind of like give you those sweet reminders, and just kind of having that accountability and not letting you drop through the cracks, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. I will co-sign that. Having accountability partners, I'm fortunate to have like 6 or 7, but the individuals who are like, look, you're doing great, but you could do better. I'm not going to let you slide. I'm not going to let you continue to operate in one direction this way. So having that type of support is super helpful. And you mentioned it being small and mighty. Like Whitney Houston and Shaka Khan said, I'm every woman right now as we speak. I do it all. I'm a Jessica of all trades. Like, we get on here and we make it happen. But as you have these resources, you have to start utilizing them and paying people to do the areas that you aren't that good at.
Yeah, absolutely. Because, here's the thing, like everybody needs a team. Everybody needs a team. And I know like we start off small, but as you continue to grow within your capacity, and as things kind of start to unfold, being able to build a team and have those, even if it's bartering services. I know you are like,
bartering queen.
So, kind of even if you have to barter those services for people if that is their area of expertise,
Yes. I am the bartering queen. I will barter you until we can't barter anymore.
So, absolutely. Absolutely. RFPs it can be a challenge. It can be a big undertaking, so I would definitely say if you can have a team or have somebody walk alongside you, your accountability partners are a part of your team ultimately,
Absolutely. They definitely are. As you help us navigate this process,
so
what would be like your key piece of advice when you're planning, and especially with multiple RFPs or RFQs? What is something that you would say if we took nothing else from this session? What do you want us to leave with?
What would I want you to leave with? I think what's important, I think people undervalue the importance of planning.
Yes.
And so, like planning out those key pieces, like, yes, it is a task within itself, but the value that it brings to you'll have less stress when you know where you're going, right? So if you don't have a path to get to the end of the journey, you just gonna keep taking detours, honey. So, it's kind of like, when you think about your GPS, right? If you look, you have the GPS and then you make a wrong turn and the GPS is like, hey, we need to reroute, but you ain't rerouting. It's just going to keep rerouting you. You're just going circles, right? And so I think it's so important to have direction, to know where you're going, to always keep the end in mind, like start with the end in mind and work from that place at all times, right? And so being able to work from that place, it kind of gives you, and when you're doing your planning, it kind of gives you the path to know how to get there, right? You don't, if you're driving from here to a place that you've never been before, you got to I'm going to go back old school with y'all. You got to go and pull out your MapQuest. Okay. Before there was
not the MapQuest. Not the MapQuest.
Yes. So you use your project planning as your guide to the
That's
of
a
where
good
you're
one.
trying to go.
Trying to type it in as fast as I can.
So, no, absolutely.
Because that's important. That's a big gem that I need people to take away, whether they screenshot it or in the replay, that they pull this piece from here. And I ask
Mm-hmm.
everybody as we're getting closer to our time, what is one of your affirmations that keep you going? That's my main question all the time. What is your career affirmation that you say either in
Oh,
the morning or in the evening?
I mean, I don't have any that are necessarily related to my career, but one of the things that I
Right.
always remind myself each and every day
Okay.
is I am worthy. I am worthy of all the things that God has placed on the inside of me. I am worthy to fulfill the dreams and the purpose that God has given me. And so those are my reminders that as I get up each and every day, while I'm putting on my face moisturizer, looking in the
Mhm.
mirror, is just to remind myself I'm worthy, right? And so even if you were to take that and you apply that to your career or to your workspace or whatever, don't settle for less than what you deserve. So, but first, you have to understand what you deserve.
Right.
Understand what you deserve and don't settle for less than that. And so, those are some of the reminders that I take with me each and every day. Now, sometimes we forget, sometimes we forget, but that is what I remember. I am worthy. And
I
so,
know that's
people, you are important enough to be heard. You are important enough to be seen, and you are important enough to be valued. And don't let anyone cheapen your value. So,
that part. Don't let anybody cheapen you. You are not cheap. Don't be cheap. Don't act cheap. You are not cheap.
don't act cheap. No.
Right. Don't act cheap. The world is not cheap. With that being
No,
said,
it
how
is
can we
not.
find you? How do we plug in with you? If I need you, need your services, maybe just need mentorship, how do people find you?
Oh, awesome. So, I mean, okay. So my website is renewed biz, biz, hyphen solutions.com. So renewedbizsolutions.com. You can follow on my website. And then if you wanted to send me an email directly, you can send me an email at LaTanya at renewedbiz hyphen solutions.com. On the social media tip, right? So the business piece and the social media is not ready yet. Social media is a little intimidating to me. I know. I see your eyes, Jessica. It's all right. It's all right. But I do have my personal Instagram as well. I can be my personal Instagram is i.am.latanya.
Okay.
And then
And
of
they
course
can
as
add
well
you on LinkedIn as well, right? Do you
yes, yes, absolutely. That was going to be my next thing. You can also add me on LinkedIn. And I'll be more than happy to meet, to chat, to advise wherever is needed.
That's right. You said it. That means if you jump in her DM, say something worth reading. Because after this, her DMs are gonna be popping. I can feel it. I can see it because the level
All right,
of
all right.
information that you know and that you shared today has been super helpful for me. And I talk to you every day.
Yes, 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 yes. And that's what I'm here to help any way that I can. I know, like Jessica, you and I talk all the time, and I know our time is coming to an end, but I know, like, I love the unsexy work, right? I love all the work that's not super sexy to everyone else. But it is the thing that literally brings me joy, makes me happy, and, all the stuff that everyone else hates.
I tell you, you do the
So,
yeah, you do the boring work. Like you don't mind doing the deep dive in data and doing the strategy behind it. And I'm always laughing at you because I'm like,
yeah.
oh, that's so boring. But it's the necessary part to being successful, especially in realms that like government
It is the
contracting. And
pieces that actually drive your business. Those pieces
yes,
that people don't love. Those are the parts that actually drive your business. And there you have some people that are visionaries, and you
mhm,
have some people that are better at executing and driving your vision. And so, you
we
know,
need people like you.
we all have our different gifts. So
We
I
do.
definitely appreciate you, Jessica, bringing me on
Yeah.
today for sure.
Absolutely. You came and you dropped gems. I'm never disappointed talking with you. And I know my audience is locked in because I saw it on the numbers when we started. Make sure you guys watch the replay if you missed anything. I was trying to type as fast as I could. But LaTanya, I really appreciate you and I thank you for your time. Thank you for sharing your gift with my audience. And I know this won't be the last time we do something together.
Awesome. It has been an absolute pleasure, Jessica. I really, really appreciate you.
Absolutely. All right, job snatchers. I will drop the next episode for episode 5 soon. Be diligent, stay resilient, and keep applying per usual.